You know, at SEMA 2014, GM made an announcement about their parts program, MyPriceLink.com, that sort of sent the industry into a tailspin. In essence, what GM announced was that they were removing their parts pricing from the estimating systems that we typically use in collision repair. For many of us, it had us wondering how we were going to be writing those estimates in a fluid and fast fashion for the customers that are either in our drive-in lobbies or at our collision repair facilities. After much discussion, GM decided to put a pause on the program so that more work could be done. This year at NACE, GM announced that all 3 software systems had integrated the MyPriceLink program into the databases so that pricing would be available for repairs. But that really wasn't the most interesting thing about this press conference. You're going to see the press conference in full, and a couple of things to pay attention to. One, keep in mind that OEConnection, which runs this for MyPriceLink for GM, is actually owned by 2 major groups, General Motors and Ford. So that tells us that it's not going to be too long before more OEMs are going down this path. The second thing that we found out was that it's really just the beginning for where the OEMs are visioning, pushing us more information. Yes, MyPriceLink will allow them to be competitive in part pricing and compete with the aftermarkets by not having to use price match programs, but it's also going to allow us possibly in the future to see more repair data. You'll hear in the program one of the executives from OEConnection mentioning that there is in fact some possibility of pushing repair data along with the parts, which means maybe I don't have to access the OEM databases anymore. Watch the entire presentation in full. Take a look at what all it has to offer. Bottom line, we're going to be okay based on what the software systems have done. But the future's going to hold lots with MyPriceLink.
We have the opportunity today to have a fantastic panel, and we're here to talk about MyPriceLink. So with that, I'm going to ask that Chris Mayer start out by introducing himself.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Mayer from General Motors Customer Care and After Sales Division. And I'm the director of the wholesale channel. So at General Motors, that includes collision and powertrain.
Good afternoon. My name is Gary Gamushian. I'm Vice President of OEM Relations at Auto Explorer, the Solera company, and I'm responsible for our agreements with our OEM stakeholders.
Good morning. Bill Lopez with OEConnection, Vice President of Collision Business Unit. We're responsible for bringing the MyPriceLink initiative to market, along with collaborating with these folks on the stage.
Good morning. I'm Jim Kinscherf with CCC Information Services. I'm responsible for our OEM business relationships.
Morning. I'm Jesse Herrera, and I'm the General Manager of Mitchell's Auto Physical Damage Division.
Good morning. My name is John Eck. I am the Wholesale Business Manager for CCNA, General Motors, focusing on all things collision.
Welcome, gentlemen. Please take a seat. It's been almost a year now since there was an announcement made from General Motors. I think it may have been at Apex SEMA last year that there was an announcement made. A lot of things have happened since that time. They had pulled back from their initial announcement, and now they're actually back up on stage today to talk about the next version or next iteration of MyPriceLink. So the first question, Chris, is going to be directed to you. Why did GM want to host this panel?
Well, you're right, Dan. Last November at SEMA, we announced our MyPriceLink initiative. And we overwhelmingly had a lot of feedback from the insurance industry and the collision estimating systems that, hey, we think there's maybe some better ways to integrate. So we listened. We've been silent since then, but we've been working hard in the background to integrate with all 3 of the collision estimating systems to bring this initiative to the market. And we are now at a position where we're piloting. This week we started on Wednesday in Denver for this initiative. So we thought this is a great opportunity to come to NACE, talk about the initiative, be very transparent on what we're doing, and share with you our results in the future.
Thanks, Chris. I'm going to stay with you, okay, for a second?
Sure.
What are the objectives for MyPriceLink?
For us, our objectives are obviously we want to be considered and sell more parts. It's transparent. But the way we want to do that is by giving a real-time price up front in the estimating process. So today, if we change a price in the system, it could take 30, 60, 90 days to change that price. But we also spend a considerable amount of time using a conquest system. Many of you are probably aware of it. It's called Bump the Competition. but it's really after the estimate is written. So we spend a lot of time disrupting our shops and our dealers and using our current Conquest program, and we wanted to do that up front in the estimating process.
So is that basically the overall goal, Chris? Is it to help streamline processes?
Absolutely, and that's why we've integrated with the 3 collision estimating systems to avoid that disruption.
Thank you. Next question is for Bill Lopez. Bill, can you describe the level of collaboration with collision estimating systems and the dealer management system companies to bring MyPriceLink to market?
Sure. So you might imagine with a project of this magnitude and complexity, it's required working with a lot of the different technology companies, and the collaboration has been key to being able to pull this off, and it's been great. All of the folks here that you see on the stage, in addition to the 13 other DMS companies that we're working with, the collaboration's been really unprecedented as far as what we've been a part of at OEConnection. And the fortunate thing is we've had a chance to interact with the different technology companies, and we really have learned from each other, and we're really benefited from that and going with best practices and such. But it's been wonderful. It's been very good.
Great, thank you. So we have 3 of our information providers here at Collision Estimating Systems, and this question is to you guys, and we're going to start with you, Gary. The question is, when this was first announced last year, there was some question as to whether or not the information providers, the collision estimating systems, were ready to handle this. So what has changed between now and then? Are you guys ready now?
And we've worked very closely with GM since the announcement because we understand clearly that disruption to the workflow is the key thing to our stakeholders and our users. And we're very, very happy to say that we had our solution ready in May to be deployed, and it's ready for the pilot right now.
So CCC had the opportunity to engage with OEConnection and GM, and very quickly we came up with a shared goal of making GM dynamic pricing available to our shop, insurance, and IA customers. And really, our goal was to do that with little or no disruption to their workflow. And the integration that we've developed and we've deployed for the pilot has accomplished that objective. Our customers are now able to write estimates using GM dynamic pricing exactly the same way they were able to do so before with the static price feed.
Dan alluded to the initial announcement, and I would say that the year at SEMA, we definitely were not ready. I don't think the industry was ready. There was a lot of anxiety and a lot of questions and a lot of things to be worked through. And, fortunately, I think OEConnection and GM in particular heard that and understood that and responded appropriately to give, Mitchell and others an opportunity to really address the workflow concerns that our users were going to have in order to implement something that was really, frankly, uneventful. I've had customers who've seen the demo say that was not very sensational. And the answer is no, it's not, because it actually works quite seamlessly. So, we are ready now, and we're live now in the pilot.
Thanks, Jesse. Next question's for OEConnection, and this might be a question that's a little tricky because we don't have this problem in the industry, but I want to talk about parts price changes. So if a shop were to encounter that, which doesn't happen very often, if they were, Bill, what happens if a shop writes an estimate, then the customer returns a few weeks later, and the shop orders the part, and the part price has now changed? How does the process account for parts price changes, and how does the collision estimating systems handle it?
With respect to parts price changes, we expect them to happen less often, but certainly they won't go away. They'll still exist. And from a shop perspective, really it's the same, right? The shop will write the estimate, it'll hit the dynamic pricing engine, and then when it comes time to make the order from the dealer, at that point the dealer will be able to do a quote lookup, and then at that point they'll see what the latest price is if there is a price change. And then in that instance, like the dealer does today, they'll decide whether or not they will either honor the price that's on the estimate, or they'll let the body shop know, right? So in effect, there really is no change. And as far as the estimating system handles it, they'll handle it in the manner that it does today.
So John, as we talk about the process, I believe there might have been a statement that the process is not going to be any different than what shops already do today. Can you maybe explain that just in a little bit more detail? And I'm going to give you my mic if yours doesn't work.
No, I think I'm good, and those that know me probably know I don't need a mic. I really can't explain it anymore because it works as it does today. A shop would go in, write an estimate as they do today, and the price is populated. So there's really no more detail than that. It's as simple as that.
That sounds awful simple.
Well, the devil's in the detail.
Chris Mayer, we're coming out with this announcement now. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the rollout? What is the timeline, the who's, the when's, the where's?
We've been kind of quiet up to now because we've been working hard, and I'd like to give a shout out to OEConnection and our project manager, Billy Williams and Sarah Truman. They've been working hard to integrate with the estimating systems and the technology and all those people behind the scenes to make it work. So now we're ready. We started a pilot in Denver on Wednesday with all 3 estimating systems. We've done the training with the dealers and some body shops, so estimates are flowing through. We have 5 of the top 10 major insurance carriers involved in the pilot, and we'll do it for 90 days or so. We'll we'll continue to monitor. We're learning all the time. We'll make sure that we're ready for national launch, and we plan on launching. We'd like to do it before the collision winter season. We could do it as early as October, but we'll launch when we feel really comfortable and that all the stakeholders are confident that we're ready.
So John, when you guys made this announcement back in November, I think it took some people by surprise. Not everybody, but a lot of the industry was surprised by the announcement. Right. So it's been a few months since November. I think we probably learned some things along the way. What have you done since that time to work with the collision industry?
So the background of that is we have spent the last 7-8 months collaborating with the estimating companies represented here, as well as 16 dealer DMS systems on the procurement side, working with the insurance community and really understanding the workflow nuances that we needed to overcome. Because that was obviously the biggest concern that we heard from the industry in November, and we wanted to work through those workflows. So we developed an API, or I should say the technical guys at OEConnection helped. We wrote an API that we shared with the industry, the estimating companies, the dealer DMS systems, and we wanted to collaborate and be transparent and open and have them comment on its feasibility and how it would work, and were their systems, technically astute to be able to handle that API. And the collaboration efforts came back and said, absolutely, this will work. And it can work, and we're ready to move forward in doing so. So the last 8-9 months has really been about the team developing that API, integrating it into their existing workflow so that it is, as I mentioned before, within the workflow, and it really is transparent to a body shop as they write an estimate, or an insurance adjuster as they write an estimate in that regard. So it's really been a great 9 months of collaboration. The insurance community, there's been a lot of interesting dialogue and relationship building there, because once you have that API and that digital connection, the art of the possibility really opens up as to what information can we be talking about and where can we go in the future.
Great, thank you. Jesse, I'm going to start with you on this question. I'll ask that all 3 information providers address this question, and this one could be kind of fun. Tell us what you think about the strategy that GM has employed.
Well, I think Chris said it well. I mean, they certainly have a business to look after and want to sell parts and be competitive, and are looking for a mechanism for making sure that they're surfacing their best pricing at the right time in the process. And so I think certainly respect that as their business motive and objective. And of course, our business motive is to make sure that we can get the right information to our users at the right time to write an accurate estimate and as seamless and easy way possible. And I think that through the implementation that we've reached, we've achieved that. And so I think that end users will find this to be pretty seamless.
Great, thank you.
I think the idea of real-time quoting is growing in importance and value to our industry. I think it's a trend that will continue. CCC's made some significant investments in this area with our True Parts platform to give the ability to connect buyers and sellers, to check availability, quoting, to buy and sell parts. And the adoption that we've seen in our own realm indicates that the industry is definitely ready for this type of change.
We welcome uncommon solutions to traditional problems. So when this came about, it's we're a technology platform at Solera and AutoExplore. So our goal is to enable what our stakeholders want to deliver without the disruption, as we've all been saying, and then provide a solution to the marketplace that the rest of the stakeholders, the users, can accommodate. So when we heard about this, we said, great, but let us help you with the deployment part of it, and let us help you with the rollout part of it so that it is effective for you as a stakeholder.
Great, thank you. So he just mentioned the word stakeholder, and whenever decisions like this are made, speaking solely from a collision repair side, oftentimes we hear these announcements being made, or people approach us, and we always think, well, what's the benefit to me? This company's just doing this for their own benefit. So Chris, can you do me a favor and maybe walk through all the various industry stakeholders, and can you maybe give us some detail or some thoughts on where you think the value is? Because it's not just about GM, right? You're not going to do something that's going to be solely beneficial to GM, but I think everybody wants to know, where is the benefit to all the stakeholders?
Let's start with the body shop, because they're the folks that are trying to repair the vehicle. They shouldn't have to spend a lot of time administratively to try to get a price, and their core competency should be repairing the vehicle and getting on to the next one and satisfying the customer, getting it back to pre-crash condition. So for us, we just wanted to be, we know we have to be competitive. So if we're not competitive, people won't buy our parts. We just wanted to be upfront and not have our customers, the end body shop, have to go through a kind of a clunky conquest system to get a competitive price. It's pretty effective today, but we just think it's disruptive, and we'd just like to be considered up front, and this made sense. So from a body shop, we think that's kind of a win. The body shop, depending on their policies and how they interact with their carriers and customers, still have the same choices they do today, so they'll implement those. We just want to be easier to do business with. For our dealers, they like it because they're constantly training the body shops and the salespeople about our conquest programs, where they could be talking to them about other things, about our product. So for us, it's a better use of our resources. And for the insurance companies, the one thing we've really learned is there's a lot of areas for collaboration where we can take waste out of the system, we can improve our service and delivery, we can help them achieve their objectives too. And so we've had good discussion with the insurers, and I think that's been the best thing. And I think, quite frankly, especially, I can speak for General Motors, but I think a lot of the OECs haven't had those dialogues with the insurers, and now we are. So I think, and of course the estimating systems, they're the pipe, they're the ones that make the transaction happen. That's, they want to make sure they're in the game and satisfying their customers. So there's something truly in it for everyone, and we've tried to look at it that way. It can't be one-sided. We still have to be competitive.
As a follow-up to that, Chris, the one person that's the silent partner in all this that we all touch is the customer, the vehicle owner. What about that individual?
So that customer, of course, we're very interested in returning that vehicle to pre-crash condition. We would like to do anything we can to make sure that customer at least has the option of an original OE part. So if we can make that process a little bit more streamlined, then the customer benefits as well.
Great, thank you. Next question is geared to OEConnection. So Bill, this one's for you. It's a two-part question. Chris had mentioned the word dealers. And I hear shops all the time saying, well, my dealership's not happy. So the question is, how do dealers feel about MyPriceLink? And then the second piece of that is, how does it affect, or does it affect, the relationship between the dealer and the collision repair shop?
So I'll take the first one, or the second one first. So from a relationship standpoint, it doesn't impact it at all. It's, again, really the same, right? Which is really the theme of what you're hearing this morning, minimizing any disruption or change. So from a relationship standpoint, it doesn't really change at all. is as far as the dealer reaction to MPL, Chris referenced it, is very favorable, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a strategy to help the dealer sell more parts. And so if we can leverage technology to introduce that competitive price when the estimate is written, hopefully, putting that OE part on the estimate has a higher probability of that part being bought. So they really see the strategy, they like the strategy. However, there is some anxiety, if you will, from a workflow perspective, right? So not unlike the shop side, the dealers have had to react to the workflow change as well. And I think of both parties, the dealer's probably taken on a little bit more of the workflow change than the shop is, right? Because the dealer is having to, because there is no static published list price anymore, the dealer will have to go into the OEC portal and do a quote lookup, right, on that OEC part. So one of the interesting byproducts of MPL is we are introducing the quoting process in the OE list price world, right? That's new to us. That's never was out there before. So again, from a strategic perspective, the dealers like it. Little nervous about it from a workflow perspective, but we've done some good things to mitigate that disruption. Not the least of which is we do have what's called DMS invoice generation. So from a dealer perspective, they'll be able to work the order, as I described within the OEC portal, click a button, and then generate an invoice within the DMS.
Great, Bill, thanks. I think the next natural question probably a lot of the attendees will probably have is, oftentimes when there's a change in the industry, somebody starts it and then a lot of people go ahead and follow suit. Chris has already talked about some of the value add that's driven back to all the industry stakeholders. And if what Chris is saying is true, I think the next natural thing is, are other OEs going to follow suit? So I'd like to have the information providers give me some thought. Do you think other OEs are going to follow suit? Are they looking at this? Are they having conversations with you guys? You want to start first?
So I don't want to comment on any specific OEM's pricing program or strategy, but most of the OEMs do have pricing programs and strategies, and we view our role as a technology company to enable our customers, the shops, insurance companies, and IAs, to get access to availability and pricing. And we want to do that in a very seamless way where there's no disruption to their workflow, so we'll continue down that path in terms of engaging with the OEMs and enabling the various programs that they want to get out to the community.
I certainly can't speak on behalf of the OEMs, but I would say that I think they're all probably watching very closely and very curious to see the success of the program. And certainly going to something where there's dynamic pricing being shared in the estimating tools is a very natural next evolution of all of the systems. So I guess we would say we fully expect that something along these lines to continue with other OEMs. How it exactly plays out remains to be seen.
I can't, comment on OEMs in particular. Many of them are here. We could ask them.
Please.
But I would say this: our platform at Auto Explorer was designed to accommodate any OEMs that choose to adopt the procedure or the method. So we've designed it that way because we are developing that that level of technology anyway. So.
Okay, thank you. So, you want to comment to that, Chris?
One particular add-on is and that's one of the reasons why OEConnection is our technology partner, is because the other OEs are used to working with OEConnection, and we've built the system in a way so that it's not a General Motors system. It's not housed in our servers, and we've tried to build it sort of agnostic. As you know, if we can build a product, any of us that are in the technology solution business, if you can build a product that has adoption, it's going to adoption across many OEs, it'll be a lot better for our shops. So we build it with that in mind. I can't speak for any of the OEs, but I think they have a strong sense of interest, and they've been very actively engaged from the beginning.
Dan, if I could make a comment. Yeah, the other thing I would comment on it, we're talking about pricing initiatives, but the API that we have written is the ability to deliver information in a live stream from the manufacturer to the shop at the time of the repair or the estimates being written. So as you look at all of the data information that a shop needs to repair, can we get repair procedures updated repair procedures to the shop faster for the specific vehicle that they're working on. It's really about transferring information from the OEM directly to the shop to help make his life easier and increase the efficiencies of that repair. So we were talking about price, but that API is just that connection that we're able to utilize to deliver information. Price is just one of those data fields within that information stream.
Thank you. My final question, this is going to be for Bill Lopez at OEConnection. So I want to stay with this, with the OEs. I want to stay with, Chris, you mentioned a lot, a common format and keeping it open so it's agnostic and anybody can participate. And you also mentioned that OEConnection, you already have relationships with most, if not all, the OEs. So you're already working with them. What are you hearing from them? Do you expect them to adopt MyPriceLink or something similar? Can you give us some comments about that?
Yeah, sure. So while we are owned by Ford and General Motors, as most of you likely know, our solutions are all for the dealer and about the dealer in the OEM community. So to that end, we've been very fortunate over the years to now do business with pretty much all the OEMs, as Dan referenced. More specifically, though, we do manage parts marketing programs that Jim referenced for 9 automakers, and we just announced the 10th one, Volvo, this week. We have one more coming on here pretty soon. But that's been we've been fortunate to be a key piece of their strategy, their go-to-market strategy. And so they're very excited about this initiative, and I've talked to each one of them and every one of them, and they do see, as I believe Jesse referenced, they see this as sort of an evolution to their strategy. And so I would expect that I expect success. We will implement, we will do well. So we are planning for success. And so I would imagine that most OEMs will follow. They look at this as either a complementary to their strategy or in lieu of, right? So in the case of General Motors, as Chris referenced, there's the Bump the Competition program, which is predicated on the part being specified non-OE, and it's after the part is written, right? So that will likely remain as part of their strategy. So in other words, if we can't influence the individual when they're writing the estimate through competitive pricing, and if it's not specified OE, well, there still may be an opportunity, right, at the point of procurement to say, well, hang on, before you buy that part, there's still a conquest opportunity. So, they're watching very closely, and they're letting GM blaze the trail and get out there and make sure the market adopts it. Make sure that we collectively, as technology organizations, get all the bugs out, and then hopefully, in about a year or so, there's a few more OEMs on board.
Sure, please.
Just a closing comment. I do want to take the opportunity, given that we are the technology responsible for implementing all this, I do want to thank each one of these estimating companies up here. They've been extremely collaborative. This has been a very complicated project, a very big project, and I think if we were all separated and asked, how long would this take you? I think our respective technology companies would say maybe 18, 24 months. Well, we're doing this in about 6 months. And so thank you to all the folks up here on board. They've had to juggle their project slates and as we have and things like that. So we all recognize the importance. So thank you to GM, but also thanks to the guys up here.
Absolutely. Thanks. If you have any questions for General Motors, we'll take those now.
I was wondering what you would recommend for shops that still have questions or concerns and want to stay informed about the program?
We've been capturing information through the pilot and have learning, so we think in probably a couple months or so we will share some detail. But basically the shops can probably talk to the collision estimating systems if they have those today, or if they're an OEC CollisionLink user today, they could talk to them. And of course they're always able to talk to their GM dealer or someone within GM.
The MyPriceLink.com website that some have gone to before is remaining open, and that's where we will house any GM information and communications, as well as the training materials specific to the dealers. Not that the shops there's training materials, but information that will help them will be available on the MyPriceLink.com website.
Maybe I missed it, but it sounded like there was going to be more repair procedures available, delivered through that. I wanted to, maybe I missed it. And the other thing is, it sounded like when this system was first rolled out, it sounded like it was going to be more added steps, or was first announced, it was going to be more added steps for the shop. And now it sounds like there may be some more added requirements on the dealership parts department, and I wondered if you could just elaborate on that a little bit.
Chris, you want that one?
I'll let John talk about the first one. I'll answer the second one, though. The dealers will have a little bit more added steps, but because basically before they could look up a price and it was in the price catalog, so now it'll show 0. So they'll get that price on kind of a per drink basis, but they have to have a way to find that price. So they'll have either by VIN or by quote ID, they'll be able to find that price. But we're also working, we have an API, an integration API that will work with each of their DMS systems because, parts counter people, we don't need to throw more workload on them. We need to make it streamlined. So that's what we're doing on the dealer side. On the shop side, I don't really see it as a disruption at all. The shop, if they're using one of our conquest programs, it may in fact save them time because it is disruptive today to use one of our programs after the fact.
Right. I think your reference back to November when we launched for a shop to get a price was outside of the estimating platform systems at that point. And when we heard that feedback from the community, we solicited the input of the estimating companies who were very, collaborative in saying, we can actually help you. Don't put this burden on the shop in that manner. We can actually help build that within the current workflow. And that's when we said, that's a much better solution for the shop and his workflow piece. Relative to the repair information, as I look at our strategies going forward and the vision and the art of the possibility, I think that there's opportunities to deliver information differently than we do today. Today, if you want a GM repair procedure, you would go to genuinegmparts.com and find the repair procedures for the vehicle that you're working on. That's another step of inefficiency for the shop to do, going to another website, downloading and printing and all of those activities. If we can help in that process down the road, not on day one, but those are the types of activities that we're talking about down the road. How do we deliver repair information that's relevant to that specific repair faster to the shop? And especially if we do make a change in a repair procedure, we can send them the most current and up-to-date process.
You guys talked a lot about the collaboration with the industry and talking to a bunch of different folks and getting their feedback on the program. Can you kind of describe the process for discussing this with collision repair facilities, how you went about gathering that information from them and kind of who it was that you did speak to?
Yeah. So General Motors, about 35 to 40% of our dealers have body shops themselves, all make body shops. So they gave us a lot of input as well. But we also went out, we sought out folks within the industry. SCRS has been very helpful. So we've gotten a lot of input and just trying to understand that workflow, what happens today, what influences their decisions. And then even for the Denver pilot right now, we've trained and explained how the process works for the Denver pilot body shops. And it seems to be going well so far.
Generally speaking, will parts prices go up or down, and how often will you update the prices? And what influences those prices?
So today, I think a better way to answer it is they could go up and down. We don't plan on being highly dynamic. The collision industry, we don't change prices that often anyways, but what we do spend is a lot of resources on our conquest programs today. And if a part is in a conquest program, it's in the conquest program. And it's at the same level, pretty much, and it's one size fits all, whether it's in Idaho or New Jersey, whether the vehicle is 8 years old or 1 year old. So for us, it's not a very efficient way of peanut buttering those funds. Those funds are limited. They're not bottomless, but if we can be more strategic and more competitive where we need to be with those conquest funds, that's where it'll help us.
So it was mentioned that there's training in the auto body shop, but it was also mentioned that the program is seamless and nothing changes. So what is the training and how is it delivered?
The training that we will have online is more for how a dealer, the minimal disruption that Chris mentioned, that the dealer needs to be able to get that quote ID to process the order and procurement and invoicing. From a body shop perspective, that is seamless as it is today. We're delivering the price as he's doing the estimate, and he carries on with his business. So the training that we're talking about is more on the dealer side and maybe the insurer side if they have questions. It's a lot of questions and information about the program. Again, just trying to be transparent.
So it's from a body shop level, it's more of information. Here's how it's not additional work for them, like we have to train them how to use it, but what the objective of the system is, how it should work. They'll need, like they would today, they'd either need an estimate ID or a VIN number, and that's all they need to communicate with the dealer.
Will the dealer be the trainer?
In some cases, yes. Yep. So we think it's so seamless that really you could look it up. It'll probably be many different ways. We have field specialists. The dealers have outside salespeople. Certainly the information providers, the collision estimating systems have people that they'll interact with. So the idea is if you make it easy, there's not too much training needed, but you kind of need to understand what we're doing different.
Bill, you want to offer a final comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. So the way we're looking at it, Karen, is if the body shop has any questions or issues, they'll go to their respective estimating provider. The dealer has any issues or questions, they'll come to OEConnection. So we sort of kind of parceled it out that way, if you will. And Chris is right in terms of perhaps we shouldn't use the word training as much as we do. It's really more informational and educational.
Great, thank you. That concludes the press conference, and I want to thank General Motors, the information providers, OEConnection, for not only just sitting up here, but also tackling this, getting out in front of the industry and being able to disseminate some of the information and address some of the more pressing questions that the industry have. So thank you very much, guys, and they will be available later. See them at their booths. Thank you very much for attending.